Couldn't see over there, Rules Chairman. You got so many friends. It must be getting close to crossover. You got so much attention over there. I heard your committee has a little bit to do with that. Let's see, where do we want to start? Well, let's welcome everybody here, and then we'll get started if you're okay with that. Is this your bodyguard? He's always right by you. The hour of convening has arrived on this beautiful Friday morning, and the Senate will now come to order. At this time, I would ask that all unauthorized persons exit the chamber. It's my distinct honor to recognize the diligent, hardworking, powerful Rules Chairman from the 53rd District, which is almost in Tennessee.
It is. Mr. President, thank you for that, and it's a beautiful day. We appreciate your leadership for the state of Georgia and its wonderful people. A couple of moments in history. One is, in 1913, Woodrow Wilson was inaugurated as the 28th President of the United States of America. Of course, he had law firms in Augusta and in Savannah. And did you know, or do you know why his wife is buried in Rome? Because she's dead. But anyway, other than that, the National Pound Cake Day in December from the 24th is his favorite day. He loves pound cake, smother it with stuff on it. And the senator from the 7th told me it's Toy Soldier Days. He loves playing with toy soldiers. The journal's been read and found to be correct, Mr. President.
It feels like you just connected with this chamber with your comments today. Is there objection to dispensing with the reading of the journal? The chair hears none. The reading of the journal is dispensed with. Is there objection to the confirmation of the journal? The chair hears none, and the journal is confirmed. All senators who have bills or resolutions, please bring them to the secretary's desk at this time. We are running out of time. Mr. Secretary, first reading a reference of Senate bills and resolutions, please.
Senate Bill 589 by Senators Dolezal of the 27th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 20 of the OCGA relating to education so as to provide for the establishment of educational scholarship counts, to provide
Education and youth.
Senate Bill 590 by Senators Dolezal of the 27th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 913-142 of the OCGA relating to requirements of an official legal organ so as to allow for the designation of a website.
Judiciary.
Senate Bill 591 by Senators Hatchett of the 50th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 14 of Chapter 1 of Title 10 of the OCGA relating to secondary metals recyclers so as to provide that it shall be illegal
Natural resources.
Senate Bill 592 by Senators Brass of the 28th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 33 of the OCGA relating to insurance so as to change the definition regarding healthcare sharing ministries, to amend Article 2 of Chapter 7 of Title
Insurance
48.
and labor.
Senate Bill 593 by Senator Robertson of the 29th, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 7 of the OCGA relating to banking and finance so as to enact the Motor Vehicle Title Loan Act to require the
Finance.
Senate Bill 594 by Senators Anderson of the 43rd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 9 of Chapter 4 of Title 49 of the OCGA relating to temporary assistance for needy families so as to provide the definition.
Government oversight.
Senate Bill 595 by Senators James of the 35th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 4 of Title 28 of the OCGA relating to legislative services generally so as to provide for 2 designated handicaps.
Government oversight.
Senate Bill 596 by Senators Anna Vitarte of the 31st and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 3 of Title 38 of the OCGA relating to emergency management so as to provide for the creation of the Georgia Cyber Force, to provide for a definition.
Veterans, military, and homeland security.
Senate Bill 597 by Senators Thompson of the 14th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 5 of Title 50 of the OCGA relating to Department of Administrative Services so as to provide for definitions, to provide for the certification.
Insurance and labor.
Senate Bill 598 by Senators Robertson of the 29th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 101664.1 of the OCGA relating to restrictions on the
Economic development.
Senate Bill 599 by Senators Hickman of the 4th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 4 of Chapter 5 of Title 16 of the OCGA relating to reckless conduct so as to provide for the offense of reckless conduct by discharging
Judiciary.
Senate Bill 600 by Senators Anderson of the 43rd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 1 of Title 28 of the OCGA relating to general provisions for the General Assembly so as to require the Office of Legislative Counsel to prepare.
Government oversight.
Senate Bill 601 by Senators Miller of the 49th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 20 of the OCGA relating to education so as to provide for the establishment of promised scholarship accounts to be funded by the state in the amount of $6.
Education and youth.
Senate Bill 602 by Senators Anna Vitarte of the 31st and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 33-124 of the OCGA relating to insurance requirements for transportation network companies and their drivers so as to require.
Insurance and labor.
Senate Bill 603 by Senators Rahman of the 5th and others, a bill to be in town and act to amend Article 11 of Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to public school property and facilities so as to provide for an outdoor learning.
Education and youth.
Senate Resolution 611 by Senators James of the 35th and others, a resolution recognizing President Barack Obama and dedicating a road in his honor and for other purposes.
Transportation.
Senate Resolution 612 by Senators James of the 35th and others, a resolution recognizing Mayor Maynard Jackson and dedicating an interchange in his honor and for other purposes.
Transportation.
Senate Resolution 613 by Senators James of the 35th and others, a resolution urging the Georgia Building Authority and the State of Georgia ADA Coordinator's Office to meet and develop.
Rules.
Senate Resolution 614 by Senators James of the 35th and others, a resolution honoring the life of Dr. Calvin Wayne McLaren, dedicating a bridge in his memory, repealing a certain resolution.
Transportation.
Senate Resolution 615 by Senators James of the 35th and others, a resolution creating the Senate Property Owners Associations, Homeowners Associations, and Condominium Associations Senate
Rules.
Committee. Senate Resolution 620 by Senators Anderson of the 43rd and others, a resolution supporting efforts to invest in a statewide clean energy transition and for other purposes.
Rules.
That completes the order, Mr. President.
Mr. Secretary, first reading and reference of House bills and resolutions, please.
House Bill 508 by Representatives Carpenter of the 4th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 1 of Title 10 of the OCGA relating to selling and other trade practices so as to provide protections for commercial recordings, music performances, and audiovisual works to prohibit the deceptive practice of musical performance groups advertising and appearing as the recording group without the recording group's.
Agriculture and Consumer Affairs.
House Bill 916 by Representative Leverett of the 33rd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 5 of the OCGA relating to appeal and error so as to provide for a unified procedure for appealing decisions of a lower
Judiciary.
House Bill 960 by Representatives Leverett of the 33rd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 12 of Title 45 of the OCGA relating to the governor so as to establish the officer of the Inspector General to provide for
Government oversight.
House Bill 1058 by Representatives Williamson of the 115th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 48721 relating to income taxation of corporations so as to remove the requirement that affiliated corporations.
Finance.
House Bill 1150 by Representatives Dickey of the 140th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 4117 of the OCGA relating to treatment of agricultural facilities and operations.
Agriculture and Consumer Affairs.
House Bill 1175 by Representatives Perkle of the 155th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 2 of Title 26 of the OCGA relating to standards, labeling, and adulteration of food so as to authorize and regulate the production, handling, transporting.
Agriculture and Consumer Affairs.
House Bill 1216 by Representatives McDonald of the 26th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 15 of Chapter 6 of Title 40 of the OCGA relating to serious traffic offenses so as to provide for enhanced
Judiciary.
House Bill 1324 by Representatives Camp of the 131st and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 11 and of Title 31 of Title 33 of the OCGA relating to emergency medical services and insurance.
Insurance and labor.
House Bill 1348 by Representatives Rich of the 97th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 12 of Title 16 of the OCGA relating to offenses against public health and morals. So as to provide.
Judiciary.
House Bill 1349 by Representatives Ridley of the 6th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 2713 of the OCGA relating to legislative declarations, ownership and custody of wildlife.
Natural resources.
House Bill 1355 by Representative Dempsey of the 13th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 41 of Title 31 of the OCGA relating to lead poisoning prevention so as to update provisions and comport
Health and
with.
Human Services.
That completes the order, Mr. President.
Ms. Secretary, can you please read reports of standing committees?
Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: that Senate Bill 537 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Walker of the 20th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Government Oversight has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: that Senate Bill 108 do pass by substitute, Senate Bill 519 do pass, Senate Bill 534 do pass, Senate Bill 562 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Harbin of the 16th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Regulated Industries and Utilities has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: that Senate Bill 212 do pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Cowser of the 46th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on State and Local Governmental Operations has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: that House Bill 614 do pass, House Bill 1374 do pass, House Bill 1408 do pass, House Bill 1411 do pass, House Bill 1412 do pass, House Bill 1430 do pass, House Bill 1445 do pass, House Bill 1447 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Anderson of the 24th District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Ms. Secretary, can you please read bills and resolutions for the second time?
Senate Bill 333 by Senators Albers of the 56 and others. Education, agents, and agents' permits to repeal definitions of such terms, provisions, remove. Senate Bill 339 by Senator Kirkpatrick of the 32nd and others. Green Call Act, enact. Senate Bill 3553 by Senator Thompson of the 14th and others. Driver's license, judicial discretion in suspension of the driver's license upon failure to appeal for certain traffic violations, provide. Senate Bill 357 by Senator Kirkpatrick of the 32nd and others. Military student transfers, military students with the discretion of select adjacent school districts for attendance, provide. Senate Bill 379 by Senator Strickland of the 17th and others. State Board of the Technical College System of Georgia established a program to promote the creation and expansion of registered apprenticeship programs in the state, provide. Senate Bill 381 by Senator Robertson of the 29th and others. Pimping and pandering, penalty provisions, increase. Senate Bill 441 by Senator Hatchett of the 50th and others. Courts, reestablishment of the Criminal Case Data Exchange Board as an advisory board to the Council of Superior Court Clerks of Georgia, provide. Senate Bill 452 by Senator McNeil of the 3rd and others. Education, administration of a nationally recognized college entrance exam to public school students in grade 11 who choose to participate, require. Senate Bill 510 by Senator Ginn of the 47th and others. Motor vehicle, operation of motor vehicles by Class D license holders with certain passengers in the vehicle, remove a restriction. Senate Bill 556 by Senator Thompson of the 14th and others. Driver's licenses, issuance of driver's license to current and retired peace officers at no charge, provide. Senate Resolution 131 by Senator Mullis of the 53rd and others. General Assembly, law for pari-mutuel betting on horse racing, provide. Senate Resolution 565 by Senator Aned Vitarte of the 31st and others. Northwest Georgia Logistics Corridor, official logistics growth corridor in Georgia, designate. House Bill 343 by Representative Rhodes of the 120th and others. Game and fish, rebuttable presumption of violation by individuals in possession of hunting paraphernalia while on others' lands, provide. House Bill 893 by Representative Nix of the 69th and others. Conservation and natural resources, extend date for hazardous waste fees. House Bill 1049 by Representative LaHood of the 175th and others. State Board of Nursing Home Administrators, revised composition. House Bill 1086 by Representative Dempsey of the 13th and others. Health influenza vaccinations for discharged patients, lower age to 50. House Bill 1148, Representative Rhodes of the 125th and others. Game and fish, possession of cervid carcasses, remove definitions, provisions. That completes the order, Mr. President.
All right, it's now time for our morning roll call on this glorious Friday. Are there any motions to excuse? The chair recognizes the timely senator from the 33rd.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning, y'all. I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the following senators for business.
Let me get my
outside the
pen and paper
Capitol.
out here. Hold on. Let me get my pen and paper.
What's this? What's that? What's this? Senator from the 18th, 19th, the 2nd, and the 26th.
Without objection, the senators from the 18th, 19th, 2nd, and 26th are excused. Chair recognizes.
Okay, they're playing with me.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 1st.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 3rd for business outside the Capitol.
Without objection, the senator from the 3rd is excused. Chair recognizes the senator from the 19th.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I'm here, but I'd like to excuse the senator from the 17th.
Without objection, the senator from the 17th is excused. The chair recognizes the senator from the 10th.
Thank you and good morning, Mr. President. I move to excuse the senator from the 2nd and the 31st.
Second's already excused, but we will excuse the senator from the 31st without objection. Are there any additional motions to excuse? Secretary will call the roll. Senators, signify your presence by voting the A switch. The secretary will unlock the machine. All right, it's now time for a morning devotional, and I'd ask that all senators take your seats, cease all audible conversations, and doorkeepers, please secure the chamber at this time. The Chair would like to recognize the senator from the 16th to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance and to introduce to us our chaplain of the day.
Thank you, Mr. President. Pledge to the national flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. State flag. I pledge allegiance to the Georgia flag and to the principles for which it stands, wisdom, justice, and moderation, courage. Well, good morning and thank you. You have a great experience. You know, one of the things that I have greatly enjoyed in my time in the office is getting to know pastors from other churches and pastors from other denominations. And I find this, I've been missing a lot. And sometimes we're cocooned in our own little environment. And this morning, you're going to hear Pastor Billy Smith from Christ Chapel Church. He's from Zebulon, Georgia. If you're down in Zebulon, Georgia, you need to drop by. It is a phenomenal place from that standpoint. The other place I'd tell you I go on a regular basis is the Oink Joint, which has great barbecue. So if you want to go there, that's the other place to go. Every once in a while, I catch Pastor Billy there. They have almost 2,000 people on a Sunday and do a really good job. His wife, Tina, he has children, Cole, Laney, Max, and Ruby. And here's what I'll tell you. I listen to him online. I can't make it there quite. It's a little over an hour and 15 minutes to get there. But I listen to him on Sunday mornings on streaming. So I would encourage you, if you have the time, good message, always encouraging and doing this. But I'm reminded of this. Alexis de Tocqueville came to America after the War for Independence. He was from France, and he wondered what made the American people different. And here's what he said. It was not until I went into her churches and heard her pulpits flame with righteousness did I understand the goodness and the greatness of America. America is great because America is good. And when America ceases to be great, it will cease to be good. And one of the things I see today is truth being preached from our pulpits. And that's one of the things that I will give Pastor Billy. He always speaks the truth. And sometimes the truth is painful, but the truth is what we need to hear. There's a statement on the wall where their youth department is or where the young people are, and I think it's interesting. Whoever wants the next generation, they must win them. And I believe this is that we need to pass on to our children and to their children the principles by which this nation was founded on. With that, I present to you Pastor Billy Smith, if you'll come, please, sir.
Thanks, Senator Harvey. Good morning. It's great to see you today. Thankful for the opportunity to share. Senator Harbin, thank you. Everybody here, thanks for the invitation. They say 5 minutes, and for pastors, that's a pretty high standard. But I learned a long time ago, he who is short-winded shall be heard again. So maybe you can pass that on to your pastor on one of his lengthy Sunday mornings. I want to share with you a passage today out of the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 5. It says to take every thought captive and to make it obedient to Christ. It's an aggressive passage of Scripture. It's a passage of, hey, you got to take action. Getting to the Capitol this morning from the south end of Atlanta, I had to take her through a few thoughts captive in traffic. Anybody with me this morning? It's tough out there. You have to take it and make it captive. I want to just talk just a few minutes that I had this morning about the power of the mind and what we're allowing to go into our hearts and our minds and how it affects us. Matter of fact, I took the word think. It's about our mind. And I want to just take the T-H-I-N-K and give you a passage of Scripture for each of those. T in the word think stands for test every thought. You're going to have a bunch of thoughts today, and the Scripture tells us to test those thoughts and make sure that they're productive. Psalms 139, 23, and 24 says, search me, O God, and know my heart. Try and know my thoughts, and see if there's any grievous way in me, and lead me to the way everlasting. I promise you today, if you have enough thoughts, and we will, there'll be one that you say, I can't think that much longer. I gotta get rid of those bad thoughts. The H in the word think stands for put a helmet on. In the Scriptures, it talks about all the armor that we can wear. Matter of fact, in the state of Georgia, you can't drive a motorcycle down the road without a helmet, because you guys understand we want to protect the mind of people. You can ride a motorcycle without elbow pads or knee pads, but you're going to wear a helmet because we're protecting the mind. And we do that also in our faith. Ephesians 6:17, take the helmet of salvation. I, in the word think, stands for imagine great thoughts. Today you have a blank check. You can think anything you want. Anything. We're people, men and women of free will, and today you can think anything you want. I want to encourage you to think on things that are good, things that are righteous, and things that are holy. The N in the word think stands for to nourish our minds. We have to starve out bad thoughts and feed things that are positive. What you starve will die, and what you feed will live. There's a passage in Psalms 119:15. It says, I will meditate on your precepts and fix my eyes on your ways. Today I want to encourage you to meditate and reflect on things that are positive and good. Then finally, K in the word think stands for this. Just keep on learning. Keep. Most scientists tell us that we only use a small fraction of our brains. That's pretty apparent when you're around teenagers. Can I get an amen this morning? Or maybe around your colleagues. I don't know. But we have to keep on learning, don't we? I mean, we're never at that point where we stop learning. The Bible says this, 1 Timothy 4:15. Practice these things. Immerse yourself in them so that all of you may see progress. And I want to ask you today, as you're calculating and inventorying your thought life, are you increasing in knowledge? Are you having more powerful conversations with each other? Are they deeper? Are they stronger? Are they more practical? Are they life-changing? Really, the battle of the Christian life is won and lost between our ears. It starts in the battlefield of the mind. Because what happens in our mind eventually goes to our heart, and then eventually comes out in the behavior of our hands. We've got to protect our minds. So this morning, I just want to encourage you as a group, as a body, to make sure that we're thinking on things that are righteous and holy. And I know that's hard in this room sometimes, isn't it? We're on different sides of issues sometimes. I get it. But I just want to encourage you. Let's think on things that are holy and righteous. Would you pray with me today? Let's stand up. Jesus, in this room today, I pray for every member. I pray for their homes, their families. I pray for the decisions that they're making today. I pray, God, that you bless them. I know that's scriptural, to pray blessings over one another. And I pray, God, that you continue to make our state greater, continue to use the leadership in this room today who do a wonderful job of directing our state. We want to do things that reflect you. Bless this room and bless these folks. In the wonderful name of Jesus, we pray those things. Come on, we all say together, amen. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share this morning.
Are there any unanimous consents? And the chair sees none. Does any senator wish to rise on a point of personal privilege? The chair recognizes the minority leader for a point of personal privilege.
Mr. President, I wanted to ask for unanimous consent to excuse the dean, senator from the 15th.
Without objection, the dean of the Senate is excused. Chair recognizes the senator from the 33rd for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President, my fellow senators, colleagues, friends, and y'all. I'm here to say a few words on Women's History Month, and today I want to talk about Miss Shirley Franklin. She was born on May 10th in 1945 as an American politician and a member of the Democratic Party who served as the 58th mayor of the city of Atlanta. Ms. Franklin was the first woman to hold the post of mayor elected to a major southern city such as Atlanta. Franklin was also Atlanta's fourth African-American mayor. Her education, she's originally from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and she's a graduate of the Philadelphia High School for Girls. Franklin received her BA in sociology from Howard University and a master's also in sociology from the University of Pennsylvania. She is an honorary member of Delta Sigma sorority. Franklin served as the Commissioner of Cultural Arts in her early political career under the Mayor Maynard Jackson at that time. Subsequently, she was named Chief Administrative Officer and City Manager under Mayor Andrew Young. Her 2001 run for mayor was her first run for public office. She won, succeeding Mayor Bill Campbell after winning 50% of the vote, defeating several candidates, including Rob Pitts. And that is your Woman History Moment. Thank you very much, Mr. President. I yield the well.
Does any other senator wish to rise on a point of personal privilege? The chair sees none. You have a consent count. The chair recognizes the senator from the 39th to introduce to us the doctor of the day. Thank you for the reminder.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning. I get the honor of introducing our doctor of the day today, who is Delphine Head. She's a family practice primary care physician with the Southeast Permanente Medical Group, where she provides care at Kaiser Permanente Cascade. She chose family medicine because she enjoys developing relationships with her patients and treating generations of families. She truly believes she was born to be a physician and is excited to fulfill her purpose in life. As an Atlanta native, she graduated from Benjamin Mays High School, received her medical degree from the University of South Alabama College of Medicine, and completed her internship and residency through the Morehouse School of Medicine Family Medicine Residency Program. In addition to her clinical work, Dr. Head has served in a number of leadership positions, including her current role as lead of government relations for the West area of the Southeast Permanente Medical Group, and her past role as president and chair of the board of the Atlanta Medical Association. Outside of the office, she is an active member of her church, where she teaches and serves on the health and fine arts ministry. Hopefully, you will not need her services today, but she is there to serve us. Again, Dr. Delphine Head is our doctor of the day. Thank you. I yield the well.
Are there any motions to withdraw and commit? Chair recognizes the senator from the 53rd.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I have talked to both the chairman of the Rules Standing Committee and the chairman of the Rules Calendar Committee. So I ask unanimous consent that Senate Bill 481 be withdrawn from the general calendar and be committed to the Committee on Rules.
Was your conversation with both chairmen an audible conversation, or was it just talking in your head?
It was a little schizophrenic, if you know what I'm saying, but yeah, we made it happen.
Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption?
Senate Bill 481, a bill by Senators Jackson of the 41st and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 23 of Title II of the OCGA related to the Georgia Hemp Farming Act, so as to allow persons convicted of any misdemeanor or a felony not related to a state or federally controlled substance within 10 years of the application date to grow industrial hemp and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Senator from the 53rd has asked for unanimous consent that Senate Bill 481 be withdrawn from the general calendar and committed to the Committee on Rules. Is there objection? The chair hears none, and it is committed to Rules. You have a consent calendar of privileged resolutions before you. Does any senator wish to remove a resolution from the consent calendar? Chair hears none. Is there objection or adoption of the resolutions on the consent calendar? The chair hears none, and the resolutions on the consent calendar are adopted. You have a consent calendar of local bills before you, Mr. Secretary. Are there any objections filed to any bills on the local consent calendar?
Mr. President, no objections filed.
Was there objection to agreeing to the report of the Committee on State and Local Government, which is favorable to the passage of the bills on the local calendar? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Questions on the passage of the bills on the local consent calendar? All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bills on the local consent calendar, the yeas are 44, the nays are 0, and the bills having received the requisite constitutional majority are therefore passed. Chair recognizes the majority leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that Senate Bill 474 be engrossed.
Ms. Secretary, can you please read the caption?
Senate Bill 474, a bill by Senator Summers of the 13th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 1 of Article 2 of Chapter 5 of Title 48 of the OCGA relating to property tax exemptions, so as to provide for a statewide exemption from all ad valorem taxes for aircraft used for the aerial application of fertilizers, pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, seeds, and other agricultural products and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
The majority leader has moved that Senate Bill 474 be engrossed. Is there objection? There is objection. Would the majority leader like to speak? He waves. Would the minority leader? She waves. All those in favor of engrossing Senate Bill 474 vote yea. Opposed, nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. On the motion to engross, the yeas are 30, the nays are 18, and Senate Bill 474 has been engrossed. For what purpose does the majority whip rise?
Mr. President, I'd like to ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 46th.
Without objection, the senator from the 46th is excused. All right, we're now going to move on to the rules calendar. Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption of Senate Bill 486?
Senate Bill 486, a bill by Senators Harper of the 7th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 6 of Chapter 8 of Title 2 of the ICGA relating to the Agricultural Commodity Commission for propane, so as to provide for full or partial remote communication with regard to public hearings, to provide for notice of hearings, and for other purposes. That completes your... Well, actually, Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Walker, the 20th District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the distinguished senator from the 7th to introduce the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. Simply, Senate Bill 486 does a couple of things, but it administratively aligns the Propane Commodity Commission in line with what we did last year with all the other commodity commissions. The reason for this bill is the Propane Commission falls outside of the title where we did that work on the other commissions, so this just brings them in line. If there are no questions, Mr. President, I yield the will.
You have no questions. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Bill 486? The chair sees none. Is there objection to agree in the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none and the main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill? All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 49, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Ms. Secretary, can you please read the caption of Senate Bill 345?
Senate Bill 345, a bill by Senators Mullins of the 53rd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 1 of Title 50 of the ICGA relating to general provisions regarding state government so as to prohibit state and local governments from mandating vaccine passports and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Health and Human Services recommend that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Watson, the 1st District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Health and Human Services offer the following substitute to Senate Bill 345, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 1 of Title 50 of the USCGA relating to general provisions regarding state government so as to prohibit state and local governments from mandating COVID-19 vaccine passports and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the distinguished, very busy senator from the 53rd to present the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. My colleagues, so for a day here, Friday, I know we want to get through this day. I'll give you the simple explanation of this fine piece of legislation. This bill simply says that the state of Georgia cannot mandate a COVID-19 vaccination. That's it. Mr. President, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
You have a couple of questions.
Okay.
Chair recognizes your good friend, the senator from the 47th to the right. That's
Thank
the
you,
other right.
Mr. President. Yeah, would the senator yield?
Absolutely.
Is this a great bill?
In my opinion, it is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you continue to yield?
Well, yes.
Chair recognizes the distinguished senator from the 48th from Gwinnett County.
Senator, do you yield?
I do, Senator Doctor.
Wonderful. You look great today, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
First question, is the Department of Public Health an agency under the definition of this bill?
They would be.
Do you further yield?
Yes.
Does the Department of Public Health require vaccination
We
as
have,
a condition for employment or access in other venues?
I do not know, but we have exempted our medical field in the government class.
Is it not true that the Department of Public Health requires vaccination for school attendance?
Yes.
Do you further yield?
Yes.
For what reason do they require childhood vaccinations?
You would have to ask them.
Do you have a sense of why that would be?
No.
It's to protect public health.
Okay.
One last question. Why is the COVID vaccine different from these other vaccine requirements?
Because we don't really understand what the lifetime of this pandemic will be. I mean, sometime in the future, we're going to look back and go, you know, we got that right, or we didn't get that right, or maybe we should have done this, or maybe we should have done that. But my constituency and many in this room don't like the fact of government requiring anything. Now, thank you, Mr. President. This is private enterprise. It's different. But we're talking about the state government, and they should not be able to mandate a COVID-19 vaccination, except for the exemptions we said when medically speaking.
Thank you, and I appreciate those exceptions. Just the one final question.
Yes, ma'am.
Given that we talked about the fact that this vaccine is newer than some of the other vaccines, there have been 10.8 billion doses of the COVID vaccine administered worldwide, which is a pretty large number. Is there a point at which you would feel more comfortable saying that this vaccine can be considered like other vaccines?
Well, let me tell you this. I believe you should be vaccinated. I'm vaccinated. I've had COVID, and I've had the 2 vaccinations and the booster. And I would recommend that everybody do this. However, I don't think the state of Georgia, the government, should require a COVID-19 vaccination.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Do you continue to yield?
No, sir. I take that as a good, smart hint, and I will yield the way. I appreciate your vote on this today. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 48th to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. So the first thing I want to do is I recognize that a lot of work has been done on this bill since its original iteration. And so I really want to start by first noting a few things that I appreciate about the current version of the bill and why these changes are so important. So the first thing is I appreciate the addition of the sunset provision in line 38 as offered by the good doctor from the 11th district in committee. And the reason is because allowing for a sunset acknowledges an essential fact about public health, which is that it is impossible to fully anticipate future circumstances. and that we should therefore not write constraints into public health policy that cannot be regularly and readily reevaluated. Second thing is I really appreciate the fact that hospital systems are carved out of this bill in lines 35 through 37, which was an amendment offered by the brilliant anesthetist from the 52nd District. And the reason for that is that that's because most of us generally believe that patients have a right to the assurance that their healthcare providers have taken every reasonable measure to avoid subjecting them to preventable illness. And those who take care of those patients have an ethical responsibility to first do no harm and to keep our patients safe. So because of these changes and because the scope of this bill has been narrowed considerably since its original iteration, I think some people might feel more comfortable or might be able to tell themselves that this bill is a little bit more than, little more than performative, let's say, and that its effect is ultimately minimal. That part is where I disagree. I agree that this may ultimately be, in the end, a messaging bill in an election season. But I disagree with the idea that the messaging itself cannot do much harm, because we've seen that corrosive messaging around public health and vaccines can do a tremendous amount of harm. And we've seen the way that doubt, cynicism, misinformation, and the undermining of confidence in public institutions has caused cracks in the foundational elements keeping our society safe and indeed free. We have a responsibility in this body. I think what we say here matters. When we legitimize in our discourse issues that we focus on in this chamber, what we write into law, this all matters because for good or for bad, people are listening to what we say and what we put forth. This bill undermines public trust in the COVID vaccine. Full stop. Whether explicitly or not, it gives oxygen to the idea that people should be skeptical of the demonstrated safety and efficacy of a vital public health tool that here in the state of Georgia is still vastly underutilized. And this bill limits the Department of Public Health, as we just heard, from having all options at its disposal to do the often impossible job we ask of them day after day. This bill is not about our current environment or what we need to require or prohibit right now, today, this week. This bill is about limiting our ability to respond in the future to circumstances we may not yet be able to anticipate. Pandemics work quickly. I think we've seen that in the past 2 years. Another thing we've seen in the past few years is that the legislature, as we can see, works quite slowly. This is why we should not write limits to our pandemic response into law. The same reason I don't lay out my kids' school clothes 2 weeks in advance, because I can't possibly know what the weather is going to look like ahead of time. I recognize that one of the easiest things to do in this chamber is to talk, as we do every day. I also recognize that one of the hardest things to do is to persuade. But I ask my colleagues to please think critically on this issue and view this not through a partisan or electoral lens, and simply consider that it should not be the role of this legislature to dictate what public health tools can be at our disposal, even if we don't need or want to employ them right now. Don't burn your bridges behind you, and maybe even more than that, don't give people the impression that bridges cannot be trusted. Maybe more than any one bill, what we say here matters. So consider what you say with your vote here today, and please vote no on this bill that undermines public health. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 27th to speak to the measure.
Good morning. Happy Friday, Mr. President and colleagues. I agree with the previous speaker about corrosive messaging, the sowing of doubt that she talked about, and cynicism, and undermining public health. We had a lot of that, and I'd like to read you some examples. Quote, "I think it's going to be a very skeptical American public about taking the vaccine, and they should be." Governor Andrew Cuomo, New York. Quote, "We can't trust the president and take his word and take a vaccine that might cause harm to us." Unquote. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Quote, if and when the vaccine comes, it's not likely to go through all the tests and the trials that need to be done, unquote. President Biden. Quote, when we finally do, God willing, get a vaccine, who's going to take the shot? You going to be the first one to say, put me, sign me up? They now say it's okay, unquote. President Joe Biden. Quote, I don't trust the president and I don't trust the FDA, unquote. Governor Cuomo. On the other side, we had some different messaging come, thankfully. Quote, your continuous undermining of confidence in a vaccine is just unacceptable. Vice President Mike Pence to would-be and now Vice President Kamala Harris. This doubt and corrosive messaging went so deep into the ether when it was politically expedient to undermine the vaccine that in October of 2020, the Kaiser Family Foundation ran a poll that asked, quote, how worried are you, if at all, that the FDA will rush to approve a coronavirus vaccine without making sure that it is safe and effective due to political pressure from President Trump and the White House, unquote. The results of that vaccine, of that poll, 86% of Democrats approved with that statement, and 29% of Republicans approved of that statement. So we have had corrosive messaging around this vaccine, but it has not been from one political party. And when the vaccine was being developed at rapid pace, record pace under Operation Warp Speed, the entire development of the vaccine process was undermined. I support this bill. Mandates have not worked. The vaccine is a decision between individuals and their doctor. And with that, Mr. President, I yield the well.
Senator has yielded the well. The chair recognizes the senator from the 9th to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to draw a parallel here. You know, it's the government's duty to ensure public health. And that insurance means that we need the public to buy in and the community to buy in so that we can all stay healthy. And it's a small sacrifice that we're asking with vaccine mandates. It's a small sacrifice for the greater good, and that's what we're talking about. We want to take care of people and make sure everyone is safe. So allow me to draw a parallel, because this is a mandate that we're asking for to ensure public health. And right now we have a mandate that, we have several mandates for smoke-free environments. And studies have shown that smoke-free environments reduce the risk associated with heart attacks and smoke-related disease. And the danger of being enclosed with an individual with COVID-19 in an enclosed environment is a similar risk. And in fact, COVID-19 presents a far greater risk to individuals' lives than even passive smoking. And yet we have that mandate in place. And we have it so that we can keep everyone safe. So I think it's prudent for us to, in this body, to allow, science, to allow our health officials to dictate when those mandates are necessary and when they're not. And I don't think it is the place of this body, and if we're going to talk about public health and we're going to talk about keeping people safe, then to me this is no different than we would have a mandate for a smoke-free environment. And that's all I want to say. I yield the well.
Senator has yielded the well. The chair recognizes the senator from the 28th to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. We keep hearing these talks about these parallels that we want to compare this vaccine to those possibly in schools, and there's about 13, give or take, vaccines that are required in schools, but the minimum that the time between those being approved by the FDA and the time they became a mandate, the minimum was somewhere between 6 and 7 years. And some of the mandates that came down on COVID vaccine, that came down on the COVID vaccine mandates, we're talking about months. So you're comparing months of no trials to years of trials, years of testing before it became a mandate. And so there really is no comparison. You can't compare that. And the smoke, we've been testing smoke and carcinogens in smoke for decades. So to try to make that parallel, to me, makes zero sense whatsoever. What we do know about the vaccine is if you go into a hospital and every doctor and every nurse is vaccinated, you can still contract COVID-19. I'm vaccinated. I'm for the vaccine. I'm not for the mandate. I got COVID-19 after I got the vaccine. It happens. It will still happen. Same thing happens with the flu shot. You can still contract flu from someone that has had the flu shot. There's so much that we don't know about this, and that is why people are hesitant to take the vaccine. It's not because of misinformation, because there's been misinformation on both sides. There's been misinformation coming from the CDC themselves because the science changes daily. So let people get to terms with this thing and quit mandating it, quit forcing it down their throat, and that's simply what this bill does. Thank you. I yield the well.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 36th to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President, colleagues. I've just been reminded that it's Friday, so we're all on the same page. It is Friday, and you could choose to put contentious bills on the calendar on Friday or not, but let us not move in haste just because it's Friday. And I want to address the fact some of us were alive, and even possibly school children, during the dreadful season when polio swept the land. Children were in iron lungs. People that survived were crippled for life in many cases. There's a late polio syndrome that comes after you've lived most of your lifetime and you were a child struck by polio. And here in these recent years, they've realized that polio comes back with that paralysis, that the impact on the human body hits you again late in life. I think that's common knowledge in this chamber. So the point is that we learn as we go. Oh, should the fact that people now have a late life syndrome of an intensifying of the effects of their early paralysis as a child, should that be a reason that we don't offer the polio vaccine because there is this situation that occurs with some people's health late in life after they've been a victim of it? No. Not at all. We all lined up and took the Salk vaccine the minute it was available. We did not, thankfully, have a president in the White House when the polio swept that was telling people, don't worry about it. It'll be over before you know it. This is just a small thing. It's just going to run through. It's not a big thing. Don't worry about it. We didn't have a president spreading that misinformation when the Salk vaccine for polio came on the market. We lined our school children up for measles shots. I remember the day I got mine very well. These are public health measures. and to argue that because it's not a perfect world and we can't predict, then for God's sakes, don't request, don't allow anybody to say you've got to have the vaccine. I want the kids in school to have vaccine. Now, we just heard that after months of no trials, we should not take this COVID vaccine and allow it to be made as a requirement. Yes, we should. The numbers are astronomical of who lie in their graves today from this dread virus. And yet, you want to prohibit it being a requirement. You can't go to the public schools without your measles shot. Hello, wake up. Your polio shot. One of the things all of us parents know, you have to rustle around and be sure you have your record of shots for your child to enter the public school. And yet, in the face of a worldwide pandemic that we haven't seen the likes of in 100 years, you want to say it is prohibited to require that vaccine for services. I don't know what planet you're living on. I don't know. And the fact, as we heard from the gentleman from the 28th, the senator from the 28th, that yes, he was fully vaccinated, and yes, he had a breakthrough, and he got the COVID virus. Was no fun. I know. I talked to him after he recovered. Not any fun at all. But thankfully, as we're hearing from the experts all across the land and in other nations as well as America, you're much more likely to have, if you have a breakthrough and you've been fully vaccinated, you're much more likely to have a mild case, that you'll come out on the other end of it and return to health. We also have long COVID. That's a whole, I've got a dear friend who's strapping 6'4" son, can hardly breathe anymore, has to have oxygen every day, long COVID. So you see, this is a dreadful pandemic that has circled the world, and we're up here trying to do some political messaging with a bill that we stand for individual freedom, so nobody's going to have to be able to require proof of vaccination to get any services. What world are you living in? The graveyards are full around the globe of the people that have died. Tell this to the health providers profession. Tell this to your hospitals that were overflowing and had to divert patients and couldn't take people with run-of-the-mill, ordinary disease conditions that needed hospital treatment because they were filled up with the COVID victims. Are you trying to deny those realities when you bring this kind of bill? Are you just saying, we're not going to look at any of that, but by damn, we're for individual liberty and a person's choice, and that's what we're going to stand up for? You're not going to stand up for public health? For goodness sakes. I urge defeat of Senate Bill 345. It's one more time spreading misinformation. And when we hear the health authorities like the CDC accused of misinformation, you think they're over there, are you impugning them to think they're making up stuff and deliberately misinforming? Or they're sharing the knowledge that we have accumulated, that science tells us at this point, and pushing on for more clarity? That's not a disinformation campaign such as we see up on some of the cable news and such as we see in the alt-right corners of our land. So for goodness sake, be a good public servant that doesn't try to spread doubt and fear about this COVID vaccine. For my goodness sakes, don't spread it. It's already had dire and deathly results for people that followed that and said, no, I can't get that. That's not safe. They don't know what. You're spreading disinformation. That's what this bill does. And the good doctor from the 48th made it perfectly clear what is the negative impact of this bill. So vote for it, knowing that you're continuing to spread disinformation about this virus and the ways that you can protect yourself. That's what you do when you vote for this bill. I yield the well.
Senator has yielded the well. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? The chair recognizes the senator from the 1st.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate you recognizing me after hitting the wrong button. I've been here for a couple years, and I still hit the wrong buttons at times. Most of you know that I'm in the Moderna vaccine trial. As a matter of fact, I got a call today to follow up relating to that and to the COVID vaccine trial that I'm in, and with a booster that I'm in that study also. So, but we never let the facts get in the way of our politics, right? And the senator from the 36th, though I much appreciate her thoughts, I don't think this bill has anything to do with polio or measles or anything like that. We've refined the bill. It is a good bill. It is unfortunate that President Biden made it a political issue, and the polls that the senator from the 27th made. I mean, listen, that is sad. I agree. In the past, last October, what President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris did was irresponsible, and everybody in this Senate body knows it. This bill sunsets in 1 year. I think this is a good bill. We passed it out of Health and Human Services, and I appreciate your favorable consideration.
Any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? The chair sees none. The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute? Chair hears none, and the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Question on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed nay. Secretary will unlock the machine. For what purpose does the senator from the 48th rise?
I'd like to rise to make a motion. I think it's maybe too late.
You'll have to wait until after the vote to state your motion. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 31, the nays are 19. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. For what purpose does the senator from the 48th rise?
I'd like to make a motion to reconsider.
That motion is appropriate and in order. Serving notice for reconsideration on the next legislative day.
Yes.
Notice is served. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption of Senate Bill 382?
Senate Bill 382, a bill by Senators Robertson of the 29th and others, a bill to be in town and enact to amend Code Section 1664 of the OCGA relating to child molestation and aggravated child molestation, so as to revise provisions for misdemeanor convictions for the offense of aggravated child molestation by raising the minimum age of victims from 13 to 14 and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Judiciary recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Strickland of the 17th District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 29th to present Senate Bill 382.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I come before you today with Senate Bill 382. Current law provides that a person convicted of aggravated child molestation is guilty of a misdemeanor when the victim is at least 13 but less than 16 years of age, and that the person convicted of aggravated child molestation is 18 years of age or younger and is no more than 4 years older than the victim. I think you see the discrepancy there in the second part with the no more than 4 years older than the victim. What this has done unintentionally because of the Romeo and Juliet clause is it has exposed 13-year-olds to actually be victims of aggravated child molestation, but they're charged under, if you look at the legislation in your book and you look on from line 19 through 21, you'll see that the basis of the charge of aggravated child molestation when it involves an act of sodomy, the individual shall be guilty of a misdemeanor. So what we are attempting to do for the GBI is on line 16 of the legislation, we're raising the victim age from 13 to 14 to fall more in line with the Romeo and Juliet clause of Georgia Code. And with that, Mr. President, I would encourage everyone to please support this legislation to protect these 13-year-olds in our community, and I will yield the well unless there's any questions.
You don't appear to have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Bill 382? The chair sees none. Is there objection to agreeing the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill? All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 45, the nays are 1. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption of Senate Bill 474?
Senate Bill 474, a bill by Senators Summers of the 13th and others, a bill to be in town and enact to amend Part 1 of Article 2 of Chapter 5 of Title 48 of the OCGA relating to property tax exemptions so as to provide for a statewide exemption from all ad valorem taxes for aircraft used for the aerial application of fertilizers, pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, seeds, or other agricultural products, to provide for a referendum and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Finance recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Huffstetler of the 52nd District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Finance Committee offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 474. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 1 of Article 2 of Chapter 5 of Title 48 of the OCGA relating to property tax exemption so as to provide for a statewide exemption from all ad valorem taxes for aircraft used exclusively for the aerial application of fertilizers and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the well-dressed senator from the 13th to present the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I rise today to bring you this bill. This bill, all farm equipment is currently exempt from ad valorem taxes. These airplanes are used exclusively in agriculture use only. And this bill brings these exclusive airplanes in line with all other farm equipment. And that is simply it. And it will be voted on in November if approved here. And I ask for your favorable consent. If there are no questions, Mr. President, I yield the will.
You have questions. Chair recognizes your good friend, the senator from the 8th, to your right with a question.
Thank you. Does the senator yield?
Absolutely.
Senator, is it true that farm debt right now across this country is as high as it's been since 1986 during the farm economy collapse?
Senator knows what he speaks.
Senator, is it also true that farmers have seen their inputs across this state go up by 50% over the last year?
Senator knows of what he speaks.
Senator, is it also true over the last 2 years that fuel for these ag tractors, as they are called, has gone up 300%?
At least 300%, Senator.
Senator, is it also true that if you buy a highboy sprayer that is only used for spraying crops, it would be exempt, right? A highboy sprayer.
Tractors, highboy sprayers, anything.
So isn't it true that an ag tractor is only a highboy sprayer with wings?
Very good definition, Senator. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Senator, I appreciate you bringing this bill, and I thank you for your leadership on this issue.
I ask you your favorable consent. Mr. President, I yield the will. No more questions.
You have more questions.
Go ahead.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 52nd.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would the senator yield?
Absolutely.
Is it not true that this has no fiscal impact on the state of Georgia?
This has absolutely no fiscal impact, Senator.
And if the senator would yield for one other question.
Yes, sir.
Is it true that the ACCG did not oppose this bill?
Senator, as far as I know, they did not oppose it, and no other entity opposed it. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 19th to your left with a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Yield.
Absolutely.
Senator, is it true that while this bill may not have any fiscal impact on the state, it does have fiscal impact on every county?
Senator, everything we do in here has impact on every county. And I think my local counties, since it's very low, we're talking about maybe 50 to 60 airplanes in the state of Georgia, they all have been very favorable of getting this passed for farmers.
Well, Senator, for the yield.
Absolutely.
Senator from the 8th did an eloquent job of talking about the rising cost of farming equipment, farming costs. Are these planes owned by farmers or generally owned by folks who contract with farmers?
The answer to that question is both, Senator. They're owned by farmers in most cases, and they're owned by general people who fly and only work for farmers.
Will the senator for the yield?
Yes, sir.
So those who contract with farmers, is there anything in your bill that says that they have to reduce their cost of contracting by the reduction of the ad valorem tax?
No, sir. And there's nothing in any bill that says any farmer has to reduce his cost by farming and that already are exempt.
Thank you, Senator.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 7th to your right.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will Senator yield?
Go ahead, sir.
Senator, is it not true that there are individuals that have cotton pickers and corn combines, and they strictly, the only thing that they do with those pieces of machinery is contract out work to other farmers? Is that not accurate?
That is accurate, Senator.
That they may or may not have a farm themselves. Is that not further accurate?
That is accurate, Senator.
So is it not further true that this is only an extension of another piece of agricultural equipment that is used in the same type of usage and being contracted for purposes of the furtherance of an ag operation? Is that not
Very
true?
good analogy, Senator. That's exactly what this is used for.
So is it further not true that those cotton pickers and tractors that those people may use for contracting out, is it not true that they're already tax exempt under current Georgia law?
They are currently exempt under Georgia law,
And this would just bring this into line with what we already do under Georgia law in regards to ag products.
All this does is bring these exclusive aircraft in line under the tax exemption for agriculture. Thank you, Senator.
Does the senator continue to yield?
Yes, sir.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 20th with a question.
With the senator yield?
Yes, sir.
Senator, what do our surrounding states, how do they treat crop dusters as far as ad valorem taxes?
When you say surrounding states,
like
sir,
Alabama, for example.
Alabama has an exemption. Tennessee is working on an exemption right now. And as you know, there are very few other states. Texas, as it goes on, I do not have the answer to that one. Florida, I do not know.
So, Senator, would you further yield?
Yes, sir.
The way we are taxing these crop dusters, it would incentivize the business to be moved to Alabama, since these are, they can fly, and they can just park them at an airport in Alabama. Isn't that correct?
If I understand the senator's correction, what we're saying is other aircraft from other areas can come in with an unfair advantage because they don't pay ad valorem taxes, and they're able to underbid our local guys to do the services.
All right. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Do you continue to yield?
Yes, sir.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 33rd with a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the senator yield?
From my good friend, the 33rd.
Isn't it true that this bill is exclusively for planes whose business is crop dusting and not somebody who may occasionally fly a Learjet over a cornfield?
Absolutely, sir.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 41st with a question. To your right.
Senator, do you yield?
Yes, I certainly do, for my friend 41.
Thank you. Is this a constitutional amendment? I noticed that it has a referendum tied to it, so is this a constitutional amendment?
It will have to be voted on in November, Senator.
Do you further yield?
Senator, of course.
Does that therefore mean it requires 2/3 votes?
I'm sorry, say it again.
Does that
2/3.
mean it therefore requires 2/3 votes from this body?
I would assume so. Yes, Senator, that's right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Just want to be clear.
Yes.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 24th with a question.
Senator, do you yield for
I
a
say
question?
I do, sir.
Okay. Senator, wouldn't it be true the sooner you get out of the well, we can vote on this bill?
Excellent. Excellent point, Senator. Thank you very much.
And it is a good bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. President, I yield well.
Senator has yielded the well. We'll stand by for one moment. Chair recognizes the senator from the 19th. All right, the Senate will come back to order. Just as a point of clarity that was brought up in the previous questioning, whether or not this vote required a 2/3. It is the determination of the chair and the Secretary of the Senate that it does require a 2/3 vote for this bill, for this measure to pass. It will require a 2/3 vote for this measure to pass. Are there any additional senators that wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair recognizes the senator from, Chair recognizes the senator from the 8th to speak to the measure.
I'll just make this quick. I just urge the people and my colleagues in this chamber to vote favorably upon this. I could go on and on about what's happening across this country in the agricultural sector. But the truth of the matter is, when you look at the cost and everything that's happened in our economy, these crop dusters, which, by the way, the majority of the crop dusters in this state are farmer-owned planes. They spray their own crops as well. The farmer has nobody to pass it on to. And we've seen throughout this pandemic, when we had in Europe, when they were airlifting food in, at some point in time in this country, we've got to decide that food security is just as important to our national security as any other issue. So anyway, I yield the will, Mr. President. Thank you.
For what purpose does the pro tem rise? Chair recognizes the pro tem to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. I echo the sentiments of the senator from the 8th. This is not a partisan bill. A hungry child doesn't know Democrat or Republican. The senator from the 19th brings up a great point regarding the application of the taxes, and does it apply to a farmer who owns his aircraft versus a farmer who contracts his aircraft. And those are all very good points. And some senator brought up the point that is he required to pass that savings on to the farmer? I'm sure he's not required to, but the fact of the matter is it creates competition, and competition is good for consumers. Anytime you have competition, it drives prices down. And I would express my support of this measure, and I hope that my colleagues on both sides of the aisle will do so as well. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the will.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 52nd to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. This issue came to the Finance Committee. He presented the bill. It's a few planes. We put an amendment on there that said exclusively in 3 different places because I didn't want somebody gaming the system and taking their corporate jet and putting a sprayer on it and then saying I'm exempt. Put some protections in there. In addition, I did not allow him to have a vote until the following meeting because I wanted the county commissioners to look at the impact as was stated. It's not a fiscal impact to the state, but it could be to the counties, and as a former county commissioner, I'm always concerned with them too. They came back and did not see the significance and said that they would look at it the same as the tractors. So with that abundance of caution holding the thing up, we then let him have a vote on it. It passed unanimously in the committee in a bipartisan fashion. I don't think this is a political bill. It's no impact, to me personally, obviously, but I would urge your support of this bill. Thank you, Mr. President.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? The chair sees none. The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection or adoption of the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection agreeing the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. As a reminder, this vote will take a 2/3 vote. For what purpose? For what purpose does the senator from the 13th rise?
Mr. President, isn't it true that this vote is a good vote for the people of Georgia and agriculture?
Gentleman speaks with great passion, and each member will have to make that determination.
Thank you, Mr. President.
For what purpose does the majority leader rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is this not true that regardless of political belief, race, anything else, this is a good vote for the farmers of Georgia?
Each and every member needs to make that determination. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 31, the nays are 17. This bill has not received the requisite constitutional majority and is therefore lost. For what purpose does the senator from the 13th rise?
Mr. President, I'd like to ask for reconsideration on this bill.
It's been so noted. For reconsideration will be taken up on the next legislative day.
Thank you.
Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption of Senate Bill 493?
Senate Bill 493, a bill by Senators Mullis of the 53rd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 7 of Article 5 of Chapter 3 of Title 44 of the OCGA relating to miscellaneous provisions regarding timeshare projects and programs, so as to authorize non-judicial foreclosure of timeshare estates, to provide for notice, to provide for transfer of title, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Judiciary recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Strickland of the 17th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Judiciary Committee offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 493, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 7 of Article 5 of Chapter 3 of Title 44 of the OCGA relating to miscellaneous provisions regarding timeshare projects and programs, so as to authorize non-judicial foreclosure of timeshare estates and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the continued busy Rules Chairman from the 53rd District to present another bill, Senate Bill 493. You must have a good connection in the Rules Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I need to exercise. That's why I'm coming up here so much today. I've got an easy one for you. Even the senator from the 31st is liking this one. This deals with timeshare foreclosures or selling your timeshares. The purpose of this legislation simply provides an additional method of foreclosure for the lien on a timeshare estate provided to an owner association or code section 4-3-109, which I would normally recite that to you by memory, but I decided not to. This legislation only applies to timeshare estate. It does not apply to standard condominiums or residents or those like that. This gives you another outlet that is non-judicial, or it could be judicial the old way. And I would always recommend having a lawyer by my side because they need to eat too. Mr. President, I'd be delighted, ecstatic to answer any questions, or I will yield the well.
As usual, you've done an incredibly good job.
Thank you. I appreciate your vote, ladies and gentlemen.
Actually, it's been unusual that you don't have questions. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Bill 493? The chair sees none. The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute? The chair hears none, and the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 47, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Ms. Secretary, can you please read the caption to Senate Bill 529?
Senate Bill 529, a bill by Senators Gooch of the 51st and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 76 of Title 36 of the OCGA relating to expedited franchising of cable and video services so as to change the definition of video service relative to the Consumer Choice for Television Act and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Regulated Industries and Utilities recommend that this bill do pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Kauser of the 46th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Regulated Industries and Utilities offered the following substitute to Senate Bill 529, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 76 of Title 36 of the OCGA relating to expedited franchising of cable and video services so as to clarify the definitions of cable service and video service relative to the Consumer Choice for Television Act and for the purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 51st to speak to Senate Bill 529.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I have before you Senate Bill 529. This is a bill dealing with franchise fees across our state. As you are aware, franchise fees are a 5% charge that's applied to cable, television, telephone cables, and power cables, and mostly municipal governments on the city, county, and state right-of-ways. It does not include satellite dishes or filming, audios, videos, downloading, streaming services such as Hulu, Netflix, Google, and such other things that you would have at home on your cable box or your satellite TV. Franchise fees are strictly for the usage of the right-of-way. This bill clarifies state law that those other services should not be paying franchise fees. We have a couple of cities that thought they found loopholes in the law. There was a court order, a court judgment pending on that to clarify that. This simply just clears up the language in the bill, so I would ask for your considerable favor and favorable consideration and vote for this bill today. I'll yield for any questions.
You don't appear to have any questions.
Thank you very much.
Any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Bill 529? Chair sees none. The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute? The chair hears none, and the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. It's out of order. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 49, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. The rules chairman's getting pretty good at passing these bills. Ms. Secretary, can you please read the caption of Senate Resolution 319?
Senate Resolution 319, a resolution by Senators Gooch of the 51st and others, a resolution recognizing the current electoral college system as the best way to elect the President of the United States and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Rules recommend that this resolution do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Mullis of the 53rd District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
51st. Chair recognizes the senator from the 51st to present Senate Resolution 319.
Thank you again, Mr. President and colleagues. Before you, you have Senate Resolution 319, which is a resolution that supports the Electoral College process, which is the way we have historically elected the President of the United States. We have shown this support in the past few years, and I would ask you to vote for this resolution. I'll give you a couple of details. If you're familiar with the electoral process, each state has a certain amount of delegates that are elected. It's based on the fact that you have 2 U.S. senators and 1 vote for each congressional district in that state. So the fairness in this is that it allows every state to have some voice in who is elected president versus the national vote that others may support. We believe that this is a more fair way. It keeps everybody in the game. It allows for the candidates that are running for president to come to the states, just like Georgia was a swing state in 2020 when President Biden and President Trump were competing against each other. You saw a lot of Democrats and a lot of Republicans working the landscape across our state. And if we did not have this electoral college process, you probably wouldn't see a lot of the candidates, you wouldn't see a lot of the money being spent in Georgia like you do today. In fact, states like California, Texas, New York, and Florida would make the majority of the decisions on who the president of the United States is. So I would urge you to support this resolution. And I know on your desk you saw a reminder from our minority leader. I want to thank the minority leader for placing that on our desk today. A few years ago, this body passed a different resolution. And the only thing I would say to that, Madam Leader, is that we all make mistakes in life. In fact, I remember a few years ago, I sponsored a bill with the former senator from the 50th, also known as Dirt Road. He's no longer in the Senate, but I co-sponsored a bill of his and I voted against it a few weeks later. So we've all made mistakes. We've seen the light, and praise the Lord, we found Jesus. So thank you, and I would urge you to vote for this resolution.
Chair recognizes the senator from the minority leader to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. And I just want the senator from the 51st to know that your mistakes can come back to bite you, can't they? So in 2016, the senator was referring to this 2 pages I had put on your desk this morning. In 2016, so there was a resolution to elect the president by national popular vote. And that is the mistake that the senator from the 51st is referenced. And so there were nearly every senator in this body that voted for the resolution to vote by national popular vote. And now we're flip-flopped to vote by electoral college. So I will encourage you to vote against this measure. Thank you, Mr. President. I will leave the well.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 42nd to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President and colleagues. I had a few questions about this resolution for our esteemed senator from the 51st, but I didn't have the opportunity to ask them. So I was just going to come to the well for just a moment to point out a few of the topics that I had questions about as it relates to this amendment extolling the electoral, or resolution extolling the electoral college. Just a few things that are worth mentioning as we weigh what is the best method of electing the President of the United States. In 2000 and 2016, the winner of the Electoral College lost the popular vote. The Electoral College does have a direct relationship to the 3/5 compromise that existed at the time, in which slaves were only counted as 3/5 of an individual. And that was one of the reasons for the adoption of the Electoral College, because otherwise, since 1/3 of the population in the South at the time was enslaved and could not vote, if we had done a direct popular vote, the South obviously would not have been able to have its actual numbers of residents reflected in the popular vote, because of the lack of slaves of being able to vote, and the fact that slaves were only counted as 3/5 of a person. So I would posit to you right off the top that we need to look very carefully at these origins and think about whether it serves us today to continue an institution that was started in part as a direct response to the fact that the South had 1/3 of its population enslaved. In addition, only white male landowners could vote at all at that time. That's another thing to really think about, and think about how our country has changed. In addition, the Electoral College does still provide a disincentive for presidential candidates to campaign in non-competitive states. And until the last presidential election, we were one of those non-competitive states. The number of emails I've gotten supporting the National Popular Vote Compact over the years are actually legion, and a lot of them made the complaint that as a non-battleground state, Georgia was totally ignored in the presidential contest. In fact, only 12 states were the subject of 94% of the campaigning in the 2020 presidential election. So I would differ that a national popular vote would cause less campaigning in more states than the current situation we're operating there under. Another issue that arises as it relates to the the Electoral College is that as of the 1790 census, right after the U.S. Constitution was ratified, the largest state was 12 times bigger than the smallest state. But today, the largest state is 66 times bigger than the smallest state. So in the bill itself, or the resolution itself, it references states not getting equal weight. The discrepancy and disparity there is so much bigger than it was when the Constitution was ratified. And, I would suggest that we consider whether in our system states should be more important than people. And that's something that deserves some thought. So I think for all these reasons, it bears pausing when we, jump out there to declare the Electoral College, the best thing in the universe, especially when, as the minority leader already pointed out, until President Trump won, we had this bipartisan effort agreeing that, including the senator from the 51st, agreeing that the national popular vote could be the way to go in this day and age. So with that, Mr. President, I just urge caution on this, and I yield the well.
Chair recognizes the majority leader to speak to the measure.
Wow, this is on a resolution. I'm sure it's going to change the fate of the world with this resolution here. There are some points that I want to clarify, though. The 3/5 count was actually a northern introduction, and it had nothing to do with the Electoral College. What it had to do with was representation, like we just went through with the redistricting and reapportionment. That's what the 3/5 did. The northern states didn't want to count everybody as a full person because it would have given the South greater representation. Now, it's abysmal to even think of anybody could at one point call another human being 3/5 of a human being. But I just wanted to make sure it was clear that that was not an initiative made by those states. It was an initiative to maintain power from the northern states. The second thing that, and I'm so appreciative the minority leader put this list on here, and I'm really, really thankful that it's the whole list on it, Because if you look at the second page and you look down at the bottom left-hand side, the status history, this thing was so well regarded that it got assigned to SLOGO, didn't have a hearing, and nothing else happened to it from that point on. So, yes, there are people in here in this room, and if we want to go back and look at the, and I'm glad to do that because that works in our favor, to look at everybody's historical votes that are in this chamber that have been here for more than a couple of years. That's a great thing. We ought to do that with everyone. But when you compare stuff that some of y'all's names are on that actually passed to a bill that was assigned to a committee that didn't even have a hearing and was never voted upon, I'll take that every day. So it's a resolution that says the form of electing our president that was defined in the Constitution is the best form of selecting the president. I'll sit here and debate that for a couple more hours for a resolution. I yield the well.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 22nd, the minority whip, to speak to the measure.
I would just also add right quick on the 3/5 compromise, that also was about the fact that each state was going to have to pay a tax basically on its wealth. And since slaves were property, the southern states didn't want to pay a full tax on its wealth. So it was a compromise on both levels. Bottom line, it was a compromise to basically denigrate black bodies in this country. I yield the well.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Resolution 319? The chair sees none. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none and the main question is ordered. Questions on the adoption of the resolution. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the adoption of the resolution, the yeas are 31, the nays are 19. The resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Ms. Secretary, can you please read the caption of Senate Resolution 479?
Senate Resolution 479, a resolution by Senators Brass of the 28th and others, a resolution commending Taiwan for its relations with the United States and the state of Georgia and for their other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Rules recommend that this resolution do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Mullis of the 53rd District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 28th to present Senate Resolution 479.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I'm here to end us on a happy note on this glorious Friday. And I bring us this resolution that simply commends our partnership with Taiwan. And really the meat of the bill, if you'll look, I'm simply commending Taiwan in their efforts to help us combat the COVID-19 pandemic, where they donated tens of millions of surgical masks and hundreds of thousands of gowns and thermometers, and in return, the United States gave them 4 million doses of the Moderna vaccine. And then also down on lines 26 through 31, you'll see that Taiwan is the United States' 9th largest trading partner, and the United States is the Taiwan's 2nd largest trading partner. And I'm hoping with this resolution we can get that to number 1. And I want to thank the senator from the 33rd and all his efforts in helping me promote Taiwan and serving with me as co-chairman of the Taiwan Caucus. And for all our members of the Taiwan Caucus, thank you for your efforts. With that, I will yield for questions.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 35th to your left with a question.
Will the senator yield?
To my big sister, I sure will.
Thank you. You're my little baby brother. Oh, I mean, okay.
That's right.
Easy now.
All right.
Easy.
But I do have a question. Did I hear on the radio that Taiwan was siding with Russia, or did I miss something? It was somebody. Who was it? It was two people.
I believe that was North Korea.
I know it was
I believe
North
that
Korea,
could have been
but it was
North
another
Korea.
one.
I have not heard that about Taiwan.
Okay, it's two, but
But you
maybe
probably
not.
listen to different radio than me, so I don't know.
Yeah, you gotta listen to my radio. Thank you, Senator. I don't know, but I just wanted to ask.
That
If
would
somebody-
certainly be a concern, and if I knew that to be true, then I might reconsider this. But I don't think that's accurate.
Okay, thank you.
I recommend you two go to lunch.
It's a date.
I would love to.
You have no more questions.
Thank you. I urge your favorable consideration of Senate Resolution 479, and I thank all our friends and family in Taiwan. Thank you.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Resolution 479? Chair sees none. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Questions on the adoption of the resolution. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. For what purpose does the senator from the 41st rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that the president of Taiwan condemned Russia on February 23rd?
Certain the senator knows of what she speaks. Thank you for that clarity. On the adoption of the resolution, the yeas are 48, the nays are 0. The resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Chair recognizes the senator from the 37th.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that Senate Rule 3-1.2 be suspended to allow for Senate Resolution 623 to be read the first time and referred to committee.
Ms. Secretary, can you please read the caption?
Senate Resolution 623, a resolution by Senator Tippins of the 37th, a resolution proposing an amendment to the Constitution of Georgia so as to provide for staggered 4-year terms of office for members of the Senate and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Senator from the 37th has asked for unanimous consent for Senate Resolution 623 to be read for the first time and referred to a committee. Is there objection? The chair hears none, and it is referred to ethics. Chair recognizes the senator from the 11th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that Senate Rule 3-1.2 be suspended to allow Senate Bill 605 to be read the first time and be referred to committee.
Ms. Secretary, can you please read the caption?
Senate Bill 605, a bill by Senators Burke of the 11th and others, A bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 5 of Chapter 8 of Title 34 of the OCGA relating to contributions and payments in lieu of contributions relative to employment security, so as to provide for certain nonprofit organizations to have the option of making installment payments to finance unemployment benefits paid to its employees for certain time periods during the COVID-19 public health emergency and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Senator from the 11th has asked for the rules to be suspended for Senate Bill 605 to be read for the first time and be referred to a committee. Is there objection? Chair hears none, and it is referred to Insurance and Labor. Chair recognizes the senator from the 36th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to ask for unanimous consent that Senate Rule 3-1.2 be suspended to allow Senate Bill 607 to be first read and referred to committee today. Thank you.
Ms. Secretary, can you please read the caption?
Senate Bill 607, a bill by Senators Orrick of the 36th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 2 of Title 46 of the OCGA relating to the general jurisdiction, powers, and duties of the Public Service Commission and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Senator from the 36th has asked for the rules to be suspended for Senate Bill 607 to be read for the first time and referred to a committee. Is there objection? Chair hears none, and it is referred to Regulated Industries. Chair recognizes the Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate stand adjourned until 10 a.m. on Tuesday, 8 March 2022.
Mr. Secretary, do you have any announcements?
Mr. President, there are only 2 meetings today. The Rules Committee will meet approximately 20 minutes after the session, and the Finance Committee will meet at 1 o'clock in room 450. Those are the only 2 meetings today. We've posted Mondays. I'm sorry, we're going to post Monday's schedule up here because you have a heavy committee schedule on Monday, which begins at 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock in the morning, so check the website on your committee meetings for Monday. These are the 2 committee meetings today.
Does any senator wish to make an announcement? The chair sees none. The Majority Leader has moved that the Senate stand adjourned until Tuesday, March 8th, 2022 at 10 a.m. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Senate stands adjourned. Have a great weekend. Travel safe.